The notification hit my phone at 2:47 a.m. while I was running pre-flight checks on the KC-135. I'm Staff Sergeant Kai Falk, 29, United States Air Force, currently stationed at Incirlik Air Base, Turkey. 6 months into what should have been a routine supporting NATO operations. The alert came from my credit monitoring app, something about a new dependent being added to my military benefits account. I stared at the screen in the dim cockpit lighting. New dependent? I didn't have any dependents. Never been married. No kids. My parents were listed as emergency contacts, nothing more. The notification showed a timestamp from 3 hours ago, stateside. Someone had accessed my Defense Finance and Accounting Service portal and added a dependent named Elena Rodriguez. Birth date listed as March 15, 1995. Social Security number partially masked. Address in San Antonio, Texas. I'd never heard that name in my life. My hands went cold despite the Turkish heat seeping through the aircraft. This had to be a system error. DFAS glitches happened all the time. But the credit alert suggested someone had used my information to establish new accounts. The app showed 3 recent inquiries on my credit report, all within the past week. I pulled up my banking app. Account balance looked normal. No suspicious transactions. But something felt wrong. The dependent addition would trigger automatic benefit payments, housing allowance, medical coverage, family separation pay, money I wasn't entitled to if I didn't actually have a dependent. My phone buzzed again. Another notification, this time from my bank. A new account had been opened using my information as the primary account holder. Joint account. The secondary name, Elena Rodriguez. The same name from the dependent listing. I screenshot everything and forwarded it to my personal email. Then I called the DFAS customer service line. 40-minute hold time. When I finally got through, the representative confirmed what I already knew. Elena Rodriguez had been added as my spouse 3 days ago. All the paperwork appeared legitimate. Marriage certificate on file. Her social security number matched military databases. But I'd been deployed for 6 months. I hadn't gotten married to anyone. Sir, the documents show you submitted the dependent addition request yourself, the representative said. Digital signature matches your profile. IP address traces to a location near your home of record. My home of record was listed as Colorado Springs. I hadn't been there since before. Someone was using my identity. Someone with access to my personal information, my military records, my digital signatures. Someone who knew enough about military systems to navigate DFAS protocols and banking requirements. The aircraft engines hummed around me as I processed this. Whoever Elena Rodriguez was, she now had legal access to thousands of dollars in military benefits. Money that would flow automatically as long as she remained listed as my dependent. I needed to figure out who was behind this before my next mission brief in 4 hours. The investigation started with my laptop and a cup of terrible base coffee. I had 3 hours before the mission brief, and I needed answers. First, I pulled up the marriage certificate DFAS had on file. The document looked legitimate. Official Colorado state seal, proper formatting, notarized signature. But the date caught my attention. March 15, 2024. I'd been deployed since February 28th. According to this certificate, I'd gotten married 2 weeks after leaving the country. The witness signature belonged to someone named Marcus Chen. I didn't know any Marcus Chen. I called my buddy Jake Morrison back in Colorado Springs. Jake worked civilian IT but understood military systems better than most active duty personnel. We'd served together before he got out. Kai, what the hell time is it there? Jake's voice was groggy. Listen, I need you to check something. Can you drive by my apartment complex? See if anyone's been around? Your place has been empty since you deployed. I've been checking your mail like you asked. Any new residents? Someone named Elena Rodriguez? Jake paused. Actually, yeah, there's been a woman coming and going from Unit 247. That's 2 doors down from yours. Dark hair, maybe late 20s. Drives a blue Honda Civic. I figured she was a new tenant. Unit 247 had been vacant when I left. The property manager, Mrs. Patterson, had mentioned they were having trouble renting it. Jake, I need you to do something for me. Can you check the lease records at the management office? See who signed for that unit. Give me an hour. While I waited, I dug deeper into the digital trail. The DFAS system showed the dependent edition had been submitted through the online portal using my CAC card credentials. But CAC cards required physical presence and PIN entry. Someone would need both my card and my PIN to access the system. I checked my wallet. My CAC card was there, same as always. Then I remembered something. 6 months ago, right before, I'd had dinner with my former sergeant, Tony Valdez. We'd worked together for 2 years before he transferred to a different unit. Good guy, or so I thought. He'd helped me with some paperwork issues, including setting up my online DFAS account. Tony had been there when I entered my PIN. He'd seen me type it in. My phone rang. Jake. Kai, you're not going to like this. Elena Rodriguez signed the lease for Unit 247 3 weeks ago. But here's the weird part. She listed you as her emergency contact. Used your military information, your phone number, everything. The property manager thought you two were married. What address did she use for employment verification? That's where it gets interesting. She claimed to work for a consulting firm called Mountain View Solutions. I looked it up. Company doesn't exist. But the phone number she provided? It goes to a voicemail that sounds exactly like Tony Valdez. My stomach dropped. Tony Valdez had access to my personal information from our time working together. He knew my social security number, my home address, my schedule. He'd helped me set up direct deposit and family care plans. Jake, I need you to be careful. Don't approach her directly, just keep watching. Already on it. But Kai, there's more. I checked with Mrs. Patterson. Elena paid the security deposit and first month's rent in cash. $1,500. She also asked about military spouse housing benefits. I hung up and immediately called the Colorado Springs courthouse. The clerk confirmed that a marriage certificate had been filed for Kai Falk and Elena Rodriguez on March 15th. The officiant was listed as Reverend Michael Santos from Sacred Heart Chapel. I called Sacred Heart Chapel. No Reverend Michael Santos. No record of any wedding ceremony on March 15th. The marriage certificate was a fake, but a sophisticated one. Someone had created an entire paper trail. Fake chapel, fake reverend, fake witness. They had submitted it to the state database and used it to establish dependent status with the military. My banking app showed new activity. A joint checking account had been opened yesterday. Elena Rodriguez was listed as the primary account holder, with me as the secondary. The account showed a pending deposit of $2,847, exactly the amount of family separation pay I was entitled to as a married service member. I called my bank's fraud department. Sir, the account was opened using proper identification and documentation, the representative explained. Marriage certificate, social security cards, driver's licenses. Everything appeared legitimate. I'm deployed overseas. I couldn't have been there to open the account. The records show Elena Rodriguez opened the account as the primary holder. She provided a power of attorney document authorizing her to handle your financial affairs during. Another fake document, another piece of the puzzle. I pulled up Tony Valdez's contact information from my phone. We'd stayed in touch sporadically since his transfer. Friendly texts, occasional check-ins about mutual friends. Nothing suspicious. But now I remembered something else. Tony had asked about my schedule several times. When I was leaving, how long I'd be gone. Whether I had any family back home. I thought he was just being friendly. He'd been gathering intelligence. I scrolled through our text messages from the past few months. Tony had asked about my apartment lease, my banking information, even my plans for getting married someday. All casual conversation at the time. Now, it looked like reconnaissance. The mission brief was in 30 minutes, but I had enough information to. I called the DFAS fraud hotline and reported the dependent addition as fraudulent. They put a hold on all benefit payments pending investigation. Then I called my bank and froze the joint account. No more money would flow to Elena Rodriguez until this got sorted out. My phone buzzed with a text message from Tony Valdez. Hey man, how's it going? Everything good back home? The timing was too convenient. He was checking to see if I discovered anything yet. I didn't respond. Instead, I called Jake back. I need you to document everything. Take photos of Elena Rodriguez if you can. Record her license plate. Get pictures of her coming and going from the apartment. And whatever you do, don't let her know you're watching. Kai, what exactly are we dealing with here? Identity theft, marriage fraud, probably federal crimes. I paused, watching aircraft taxi on the runway outside, and I think I know who's behind it. The pieces were falling into place. Tony Valdez had used his knowledge of military systems and my personal information to create a fake marriage. He'd recruited Elena Rodriguez to play the role of my wife, set her up in an apartment near mine, and established her as my dependent to steal military benefits. The question was how much money they'd already taken, and how long this had been going on. My phone showed another text from Tony. Let me know if you need anything. Always here to help a fellow soldier. The irony was almost perfect. My former sergeant, someone I'd trusted with my career and my personal information, was systematically stealing my identity while I served overseas. But now I had bank records, fake documents, witness testimony from Jake. Enough to build a case. I just needed to figure out how deep this conspiracy went, and whether Elena Rodriguez was a willing participant or another victim. The mission brief could wait. This was about to become a very different kind of operation. I contacted the Air Force Office of Special Investigations the next morning. Special Agent Martinez took my call and listened to everything without interruption. Sergeant Major Falk, this sounds like organized fraud. We'll need to coordinate with civilian authorities since the fake marriage involves state documents. Within 48 hours, I was on a video conference with Agent Martinez, Detective Sarah Chen from the County Sheriff's Cybercrime Unit, and Special Agent Young from the Federal Cyber Unit. Agent Young pulled up financial records on her screen. We've traced $47,000 in fraudulent benefit payments over the past 14 months. Housing allowance, dependent medical coverage, commissary privileges, and family separation pay. Detective Chen added, the marriage certificate was filed in Clark County, Nevada. Professional forgery work. Someone with access to military databases provided your personal information, including your social security number and service details. I shared everything I discovered. The fake apartment lease, Elena Rodriguez's daily routine, Tony Valdez's suspicious text messages. We need recorded, Agent Young said. Are you willing to participate in a controlled operation? The plan was simple. I would contact Tony Valdez and arrange a video call, claiming I needed help with a family emergency back home. Agent Young would monitor the conversation and record everything. Jake agreed to maintain surveillance on Elena Rodriguez while I handled Tony. 3 days later, I initiated the call. Tony appeared on screen, sitting in what looked like his barracks room at Fort Campbell. Kai, good to see you, man. What's this emergency you mentioned? I'm having issues with my bank account. Someone's been accessing my military benefits. DFAS is asking questions about a dependent I never registered. Tony's expression didn't change, but I caught him glancing away from the camera. That's weird. You sure you didn't add someone and forget? Deployments mess with your head sometimes. I'm positive. The thing is, they're saying I'm married to someone named Elena Rodriguez. Ever heard that name? Nope. Sounds like identity theft. You should report it to OSI. Already did. They're investigating. I paused, watching his face. The strange part is, whoever did this had access to my personal information. Military records, social security number, even my dates. Tony shifted in his chair. Could be anyone, really. Data breaches happen all the time. True, but OSI thinks it was someone with inside knowledge. Someone who knew my routines, my financial situation, my schedule. Well, I hope they catch whoever did it. Tony's voice stayed steady, but sweat was visible on his forehead. Identity theft is serious business. It is, especially when it involves marriage fraud and stealing military benefits. Federal crimes carry heavy sentences. Yeah, definitely. Listen, I should go. Got PT in 20 minutes. Before you hang up, Tony, OS, I asked me to reach out to people who had access to my personal information. You know, as my former sergeant, you handled a lot of my paperwork. The silence stretched for 10 seconds. Tony's eyes darted around the room. I mean, yeah, I processed some of your admin stuff, but that doesn't mean anything. Of course not. I'm just following their instructions. They want to interview everyone who had access. Standard procedure. Right. Well, I'm happy to cooperate with any investigation. Good to hear. Oh, one more thing. They mentioned the fraudulent marriage was registered in Las Vegas. Funny coincidence. Didn't you take leave there about 15 months ago? Tony's face went pale. I take leave lots of places. That doesn't prove anything. Prove anything? I never said it did. Just mentioned it was a coincidence. Look, Kai, I don't know what you're implying, but I had nothing to do with your identity theft. I never said you did, Tony. Why are you getting defensive? The video call ended abruptly. Tony had disconnected. Agent Young's voice came through my earpiece. Perfect. We got everything we needed. Meanwhile, Jake had been documenting Elena Rodriguez's activities. She worked at a local restaurant and lived modestly. Her bank records showed regular deposits matching the fraudulent benefit payments, but also she was sending most of the money to someone else. Detective Chen brought Elena in for questioning 2 days later. Faced with financial and the recorded conversation with Tony, she broke down within an hour. He said it was just paperwork, that you were deployed and needed someone to handle your benefits while you were overseas. He paid me $500 a month to pretend to be your wife. How did you meet Tony Valdez? Detective Chen asked. Online dating app. We went out a few times when he was stationed here. When he got transferred, he called and offered me this deal. Said it was completely legal, just helping out a fellow soldier. Elena provided text messages between her and Tony, including instructions on how to access the fake apartment and use the forged marriage certificate. The view was overwhelming. Tony Valdez had orchestrated the entire scheme, using his military knowledge and access to create a sophisticated fraud operation. Agent Young coordinated with military police at Fort Campbell. They arrested Tony during morning formation, in front of his entire unit. His court-martial was swift. He included financial records, recorded confessions, forged documents, and testimony from multiple witnesses. Tony pled guilty to fraud, identity theft, and conduct unbecoming. He received a dishonorable discharge and 18 months in military prison. The court also ordered full restitution of the stolen benefits. Elena Rodriguez received probation and community service in exchange for her cooperation. Her testimony helped prosecutors understand the full scope of Tony's operation. DFAS restored my benefits and removed the fraudulent dependent from my records. My bank recovered most of the stolen funds through their fraud protection program. But the investigation revealed something else. Tony had attempted similar schemes with 2 other deployed soldiers. Agent Young's team prevented those frauds before significant money was stolen. I testified at Tony's court-martial via video link from Incirlik. Seeing him in military custody, stripped of rank and facing justice, brought a satisfaction I hadn't expected. The prosecutor asked me to describe the impact of his crimes. Sergeant Valdez violated the trust that holds our military together. He used his position and knowledge to steal from soldiers serving overseas. That betrayal cuts deeper than the financial loss. Tony sat motionless throughout the proceedings. He never looked at the camera during my testimony. After sentencing, Agent Young called with an update. We've implemented new safeguards in the dependent registration system. Tony's scheme exposed vulnerabilities that needed addressing. The case was closed, but the ripple effects continued. Other soldiers reached out, sharing similar suspicious activities. I helped connect them with the appropriate investigators. Jake kept me updated on the cleanup back home. The fake apartment lease was terminated. Elena Rodriguez moved back to her original address. The forged documents were destroyed as well. I continued, but with a different perspective. I'd learned that threats to military families could come from within our own ranks. Trust, once broken, required constant vigilance to rebuild. The investigation had taken 3 months from discovery to resolution. Justice was served, money was recovered, and systems were improved. But the betrayal by someone I trusted with my career would take longer to process. 6 months later, I stood in the same communications center at Incirlik where this nightmare began. My process was ending in 2 weeks. The base felt different now, or maybe I was the one who'd changed. The financial recovery was complete. My bank had restored every stolen dollar through their fraud protection program. DFAS cleaned up my military records and implemented new verification protocols for dependent registrations. The fake marriage certificate and forged documents were destroyed after serving as briga. Tony received a dishonorable discharge and 18 months in military prison. Elena Rodriguez was sentenced to 6 months and ordered to pay restitution. The judge called their scheme a calculated assault on military families serving overseas. Agent Young's cybercrime unit used our case to train other investigators. The dependent registration vulnerabilities Tony exploited were patched across all military branches. 3 similar fraud attempts were stopped before any money was stolen. Jake finished his 2 months ago. He called last week from Fort Campbell, settling back into civilian life. You saved a lot of soldiers from going through what you did, he said. That has to count for something. It did count. But trust remained fragile. I'd learned to verify everything twice. Bank statements, military records, official communications. The paranoia was exhausting, but necessary. Other deployed soldiers contacted me through official channels, sharing suspicious activities they'd noticed. I helped connect them with the right investigators. My next assignment was Fort Bragg. A fresh start seemed appropriate. The nonprofit work began during my final month at Incirlik. I volunteer with a nonprofit offering free, identity recovery kits to soldiers. We help military families protect themselves from financial fraud while deployed overseas. The program expanded to 12 bases in the first 6 months. Elena Rodriguez sent a letter through her attorney. She apologized for her role in the scheme and thanked me for not pursuing additional charges. I never responded. Some betrayals don't deserve forgiveness, only justice. The communication center was quiet at 0200 hours. My replacement would take over these duties next week. He was young, eager, trusting. I'd brief him on security protocols, but some lessons could only be learned through experience. My phone buzzed with a message from my bank. Monthly statement available. I checked it immediately, scanning every transaction. Clean, normal, safe. The habit would probably never fade. Tony's betrayal had cost him everything: career, freedom, reputation. My losses were temporary. His were permanent. That knowledge provided a cold satisfaction that surprised me. Tomorrow, I'd pack my gear and prepare for the journey home. Fort Bragg offered new challenges, new responsibilities, new people to trust carefully. The investigation files were sealed, but the lessons remained fresh. Military families deserve protection from predators who exploited their service. That mission would continue long after mine ended. I closed the laptop and secured the communications equipment. The base was sleeping, peaceful under the Turkish stars. In 2 weeks, I'd be stateside, starting over with hard-earned wisdom. The betrayal had taught me that trust was a luxury deployed soldiers couldn't afford carelessly. But it also showed me that justice, though slow, was reliable when good people fought for it. Agent Young, Jake, the prosecutors, even Elena Rodriguez in her way, they'd all played roles in exposing the truth. The system worked when honest people refused to let criminals hide. I walked back to my quarters through the empty corridors. The base would wake soon, another day of operations beginning. My war was over, but the mission continued. It was finally over, and the silence felt earned.